It's the rundown from the Big Rapids Media Network Sports Center, and we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Some awesome games that happened last week, and we're going to discuss that, what's coming up this week, all in CSAA Gold, and it's going to be a real good time. Let's go around the horn and find out who our analysts are today.
My name is Brandon Worth. I am the broadcaster for Reed City Football. Not this week, as you guys will learn in just a second, but I'm just a football fan here today, just here for the long ride.
I'm Joe. I'm on the call for Reed City this week, so that's going to be fun. But my day-to-day stuff, I usually just produce a lot of stuff around here, so I just kind of hang out, have a good time.
JT Scarpelli, I do the Big Rapids Cardinal Football games on Big Country, and I'm the baseball coach at the high school.
And I am Etch. I am on Big Country 100.9's morning show and Mornings with Etch. And I'm basically just here to curate things because these guys are all the brains behind it all and the analysts and know exactly what's happening with all the players and all that. So a lot of great games that happened over last Friday. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's kick things off with JT with Big Rapids.
Yeah, so Big Rapids went out to Chippewa Hills. The final score, 35-19. They won the game. Now, there are a couple notable things in this game. Big Rapids did not have their two starting safeties. Riley Venix, who's also their starting quarterback, is recovering from an injury he sustained at the end of the Reed City game. And then Caleb Dabowski, their other safety, two really good defensive players, but two exceptionally explosive offensive players. So both those guys were out of the game. You had some other kind of prolonged injuries, so like James Brandt and stuff like that. But those two guys were clearly a focus for Tyler Gear and Coach Palong of the Warriors. The replacement of those two guys, I should say, because they went after that secondary of Big Rapids early and often with Tyler Gear at quarterback. Chip Hills actually scored the first points that Big Rapids has given up in the first quarter all season long. They put up 13 points. Now, unfortunately, they surrendered 35 unanswered points before literally a last second touchdown from a fifth quarter quarterback for Chip Hills. So the game got out of hand once Gear got out of the game, but it was actually Big Rapids was down 13-0 going into the second quarter. And then they were up 14-13 going into halftime. Pretty much what happened was offensively for them was Cole Heiss took over. He's had a decent amount of reps in some of these blowout games that they've had prior. So he wasn't entirely new to the process, but it definitely took a quarter for the offense to kind of get on the same page. And once they did, they did just fine. Cole, they kind of had a safer game plan for him. I would say he didn't throw the ball too far downfield, but he was 14 of 17 for 147 yards passing. He also had a rushing touchdown. And the thing to note about Cole is while he has some physical development to continue, he's only a sophomore. So as he gets bigger and stronger, he could throw a ball farther, et cetera. He's going to be dangerous because he showed this week that he knows how to run the offense. He did a very good job. He seldom made any kind of mistake, even running the ball, when to tuck it, when to go, design runs, when to hand it off, when not to, stuff like that. He was exceptional for being a sophomore coming up on varsity and filling in for a senior quarterback. So Cole did a great job, again, managing the game. Jack Bowman was just a force from the backfield for them, more of a power back. He's fallen into that role where Garrett Foster just continues to show that he's the best football player on the field on both sides of the ball. He was doing everything again this game. He had 72 yards on the ground. He had a couple touchdowns. I mean, he was just phenomenal again, and he dishes out a lot of punishment. So the game plan was clearly to get it in his hands as often as possible. And I would expect the same for this Friday when Big Rapids goes to Grant.
Should be a pretty good game. Love watching Big Rapids play right now. They're just playing on all cylinders, and it's just a really fun group of kids to watch come out and take the field every day. that they're out there. So moving right along, Joe, you have a pretty sweet situation going on with
I'm loving life right now. Let's be honest. Let's just take a look back. All right. When I was at Tri-County, we were a dumpster fire. We were the lowest of the low. Okay. It's like Moneyball. It's the best teams, 50 feet of poop, and then Tri-County. Now, top of the world. This is what we like to see. The boys are rolling, honestly. I mean, I think it's 28 points is the least amount of points that we scored against Reed City in week 2. Other than that, it's been firing. Last week against Morley, got out to a really hot start, tossed the second, third, fourth stringers in. Didn't really get too many scores after that. But, I mean, if you see it, they're coming out firing right away, right off the jump. I think they're averaging 42 points a game. They got Central Montcalm upcoming this week as well. So that should be a pretty good game. I'm forgetting if it's home or away. I think it's probably – home, I think. Don't quote me on that, though. You might want to check that out yourself. Yeah, but I think it's home game, so it's going to be rocking. I'm excited for this Big Rapids game next week. That's going to have some pretty big conference implications on the line. Probably the conference championship if both Big Rapids and Tri-County win this week. So it's going to be pretty exciting. But Tri-County's been firing all cylinders and proving a lot of people wrong, saying that they weren't going to be able to match that offensive powerhouse that they were last year. And they've been doing really, really solid.
Yeah, and coming off of a loss like Central Montcalm did with Reed City last week, 42-20 was that score. Going against a powerhouse like Tri-County right now is going to be pretty telling to show just exactly how strong Tri-County is in the conference play moving into when they do play Big Rapids. So I'm really looking forward to that game. Big Rapids and Tri-County is going to be a great game in a couple of weeks here. But Reed City taking down Central Montcalm. Brendan, we talked about it last week, saying, will they bounce back? Will they have a strong game? Looks like they had a pretty a strong showing. So tell us a little bit about what happened.
It was a well-needed bounce-back game. It was homecoming for the Coyotes, and they certainly put on a show. Started off a little slow, gave up an early touchdown to Montcalm and Anthony Schwartz right out of the gate. I think it was the second play from scrimmage. But they bounced back. They fell right back into their scheme very well. And you could tell just as much as those guys worked all season long that there was still work to be done, and especially in the defensive game. This was really a good defensive statement. They did allow 20 points, but there was really just a Hail Mary play right before halftime that was just a busted play. It was actually not a great thrown ball, but it was the worst ball that could have been thrown because it was inside on Andres' shoulder. That was the only way they could have got it to the receiver. And it was because they were going for a back shoulder ball. It actually went front shoulder. Andres turned the wrong way. It ended up working out for Central Montcalm, so they got 6 free points on just a free play. But other than that, Reed City did a great job. They controlled the defensive line of scrimmage. They were able to get to the quarterback, a couple sacks in this game. Max Hammond had a big one on a 4th down that got them the football back on the Central Montcalm side of the field. They ended up getting 6 off of it. And the running game exploded. The guys in the trenches, Ethan Powell, Wyatt Spalo, those guys, Jacob Taylor, they really showed up in a big way on Friday. They were moving the trenches. Yardage per gain was 4, 5, 6 yards a carry almost all night. They had a couple really nice, big, long runs. And especially when you look at it in the statistical sheet, I had to double check this. You had Johnny Andres with 179 yards, Max Hammond with 172 yards. I actually had a couple more yards unofficially in my stat book for Hammond, almost near 190 as opposed to 150. But either way, both those guys were turning all cylinders. You had Max Hammond just bowling his way through the middle of the field on a lot of those just dives and traps. And then you had John Andres' speed on the sweeps and on the tosses, and he was able to get out in space and make a lot of big runs. I think he had over 6 20-yard runs in that game. It felt like he was absolutely on fire. And they did what I was hoping they would do over these last couple of weeks. Their defense was able to force turnovers. They were able to get a fumble recovery interception for Spencer Hansen by himself. He had a fantastic game at the corner spot, especially against Central Montcalm's speed at the receiver position. And especially from that, he had a phenomenal game. The secondary really gave up a couple plays, obviously, as mentioned, a couple long touchdowns. But other than that, they really settled in. They didn't let that bother them. And for the rest of the game, outside of those 2 plays, those 2 busted plays, they held Central Montcalm to 6 points. And that's exactly what you're looking for your defense for a 48-minute football game. So they did very well. The trenches did fantastic. Those guys really stepped up, and hopefully we keep that momentum going on the road this week against a Newaygo team that is coming off of a rivalry win victory. So right now they are a little bit in control of their own destiny. But when it looks at where Reed City is at, where their confidence is at now going on the road trip, I think this was as probably good a performance as you could have put up considering the circumstances, especially guys banged up going into this week. But I think that there's a lot of confidence right now for Reed City to finish out this season strong.
And it should be a good game there too with Reed City kind of bouncing back. They had kind of a sluggish start to the beginning of the season, but 5 games in, starting to put things together. And newer young team that they are trying to get rolling like they are now. It just takes a little bit of time, so we'll see how that all turns out. But should be a good game coming up this week. You can catch that game on Y102, 102.3. That's WWBR. And from what I understand, there Joe's going to be hitting the mic on that one. Is that what's going down?
Yeah, you know how it's going to go. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, so listening to Joe with that one, and then of course Coach Scarpelli here, JT, has got the Big Rapids game that'll be on Big Country 100.9, and you can catch that game. 7 o'clock is when it starts. Both games kick off at 7 o'clock. 6:45 is roughly the time for our pregame, so you can listen into some analytics then as well. But let's get into our Hail Marys. Now, I know last week I was talking my smack to Joe here about Morley Stanwood coming up strong and being like, oh, yeah, they're going to take him down. And I'm going to go with it again. I'm just every week from here on out, I'm just going with Stanwood because I want to see him get a win. I think they're 18. Is it 18 games now that they've been in the hole? So it should be interesting to see moving forward. Now, I do believe they play Kent City, who is 4-1 right now after they took down Lakeview last week in a pretty big one. So, I'm just going to toss it out there and say we're going to try it again for a Morley Stanwood win. If no one else is for you, I am. JT, who you got for your Hail Mary?
Well, it's kind of tough because the slate of games this week kind of all look like they could be lopsided. So I'm going to pick the closest one. It's going to make Joe mad. That I don't really know if I would go full bore Central Montcalm to beat Tri-County in Howard City. But if there was a spread on this game, I would I'd take Central Montcalm to at least cover the game. I think it's going to be a little closer than what some of their Central Montcalm's previous scores show. They show an ability to pass the ball and score quickly. So I think it'll be, hammer the over and Central Montcalm to cover. So my Hail Mary, I guess I'll just go all out then. Hornets over the Vikings. There you go, Joe. I know we're not friends. We're not friends for the next 48 hours, but that's okay.
I respect it. I respect the play.
All right, Joe, what you got for your Hail Mary?
Lakeview is going to take it over Chip Hills, I think. Lakeview's been struggling as of late. Chip Hills, I feel like, has been hitting well on a lot of different things. They've been really playing pretty solid. That defense has been standing tall, but they're not going to do it against the Wildcats because they're going to go in. They're going to win it. I believe it's at home for Lakeview. So front of the home crowd going to get a big win. Former CSA silver versus CSA gold. Underdog. Take it. Knock it down.
That's not a bad play, Joe, because, dude, with Tyler Gear out, if he's not back, he is like the Chip Hills offense. Yeah. It is dynamic.
They're on third string quarterback at that point.
I didn't even know that, but that makes my pick even better. So
it is a good pick. Yeah, it is a good pick.
Tally it up. Joe might just have yet another win this week. We'll see. Brandon, what you got?
So as JT mentioned, I went through a lot of these games. Obviously look pretty chalk, maybe outside of a couple games that are close, which you guys picked already. So I went a different route. I'm going to go with a score prediction, and I'm going to look at the White Cloud Indians against Muskegon Heights Academy. This is a game that White Cloud should win. It obviously looks a little tricky on the road at Muskegon, a very motivated team that's looking for a win. I'm going to say that Coach Trice's team comes out and they just absolutely dominate this game. I think they win by over 40 points on the road at Muskegon Heights Academy. I think this is going to be an absolute blast fest for that Indian offense. They're going to absolutely dominate, and I will take that to the bank, and I hopefully will cash out on it. If not, at least I went to the casino and went big because I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's not a bad play. To be honest, Muskegon Heights hasn't even scored a touchdown yet this season. Keep in mind, so
That should be
Big brain.
Should be.
I'm liking the call.
Should be interesting to see how it all turns out. So that's what we got for you, guys. Again, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll be back with all the highlights and the scores and the analytics moving into the next week here, right here on the Rundown.